Hey, it's Django from Calvander Sound. Today we're talking about the guitar solo from Pink Floyd's song Money. Part of the guitar solo, there are actually several in a row and they all kind of follow one after another. So we're looking at the first guitar solo. What we're interested in is not just how to play it, and there's a transcription for it at calvandersound.com that you can get, but also what he's doing, what David Gilmour is doing with this solo, and how we can take some of these techniques and use them in our own solos. So it's a blues in B, B minor, E minor, and F sharp minor. So it's a 1-4-5. So that gives us the B minor pentatonic scale, and that's pretty much what almost the entire solo is working with. Now the question is, how do you take those 5 notes that everybody knows, and make them sound like the solo, which is pretty outstanding? The main answer, it follows up on what we talked about in one of our other soloing lessons that you can check out on the channel, which is it's about phrasing and about creating simple phrases and then repeating them, developing the ideas and building tension and then releasing it. At the beginning of the solo we get this. So those first 4 phrases are really in conversation with each other. They're what we call call and response. So the first one is the low one, wah wah. Then there's response. Then back to the first one. So a little bit more complicated, but still the same idea. And then a little bit more complicated on the top. But basically the same idea. So this call and response idea comes from gospel music, and it's super important with soloing, of any sort, but it's particularly anything that's touching on the blues. How do you create a call and response? Well, think of it like you're playing a question, and then how would you answer that musically? So it's almost like someone is saying, hey, excuse me, and the answer would be like, yes. And then it's like, where's the bathroom? I don't know. You can fill in your own words with it. But the idea is just to really think about it like a conversation that you're having with yourself. And then the high one kind of takes over. But then it's responded to by the low one. This kind of back and forth between the low and the high parts of the solo are a hallmark of really good blues soloing, where you're kind of using call and response and you're allowing these separate kind of personalities to kind of start to blend together into one kind of duet. Another thing that is really remarkable about this solo is the bending. There are so many different kinds of bends. There are these quick, where you do a full step bend and then hit the next note on the next string, but you stop it, so it's or that kind of soaring bend where you get all the way up, but it just feels like you're lifting a huge heavy rock. There's so many different bending techniques going on in this solo. Even just these subtle ones, like instead of playing, it bends up to it. Another reverse bend. The mother lode of bending is on the very last phrase of bending, which is unlike most bends that are just bending a whole step or a half step, this is bending a step and a half. And a good way to get really good at bends is whatever the bend is, wherever you're going to, the kind of note that you're reaching for, test to see if you've gotten there. So if you're going, so that's a whole step bend. So I play the note, and then I play the note on with just the fretted note, not the non-bent note that it's bending to. That way you can be really accurate. Being accurate with your bending is a really, really important part of learning to do a good rock solo. So let's look at the solo again. We'll go. Little call and response. That's the response. So there's this one. And then basically the same thing, an octave down low. Notice that mostly we're in this box, but sometimes we go up to the higher part of the box. So if the box is 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 4, the higher part you shift up on the G string. Instead of playing your third finger, you play your second finger and slide it up a whole step, and then the next two strings are 1 3 1 3. You can get these fingerings again at my website, Calvander Sound. A lot of the high stuff is played up in this higher part of the pentatonic scale. One last thing I want to kind of point out about the solo is the way that it uses octaves, and this is another kind of call and response thing. To play a phrase and then play it in a lower or higher octave is a really cool way of expanding on an idea. So that's the idea. And then the next one. So it's got this idea, and what it does is just kind of strings them together in an octave. It does two things. It repeats the idea, which allows it to develop a little bit, but also what it's doing is it's moving down to the bottom, because literally the bottom of the scale. This is important because if you play your whole solo up in the high squealy, it just gets annoying. So you really need that push and pull of bringing it down, leaving more space, coming back and building it up, maybe playing in a higher area, and then bringing it back down. Using a phrase and then playing its lower octave or higher octave is a great way to kind of bridge these different areas of the scale. So now we were just talking about bending. This is a situation where slides are used very much like bending. I'm sliding, but you barely hear it. It's a very fast slide from 11th fret down to the 9th fret. Again, 9th fret down to the 7th fret. Practicing sliding and really paying attention to the speed of the slide. Again, that really fast whipping, it's kind of like whips up or down, is a really cool way to move around on the scale and also gain some momentum. And then we end up with the kind of set piece, which is actually just a B natural minor scale with one added approach note because they needed another beat. Except it has that one approach note right of a C. So check out the transcription, see what you think of it. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them below. Please do subscribe to my channel so you can catch all the new lessons as they come out. If you have any suggestions of things you'd like to see a lesson on, also let me know, and maybe we can do that as well. Thanks, enjoy, and have a great day.